Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. Today I'll be speaking with convicted murderer Martha Freeman. Jeffrey Freeman, a 44-year-old businessman from Nashville, Tennessee, was brutally murdered on the night of April 10, 2005. His wife, Martha Ann Freeman, and her secret lover, Rafael DeJesus Rocha Perez, conspired to kill him. Investigators determined that the victim had discovered Rocha Perez hiding in their closet, which triggered the fatal attack. Jeffrey was bound, beaten, strangled, and left in the bathroom of their home. His body was found the following morning, April 11, 2005. Following the discovery of the crime, Martha Freeman went to a neighbor's house and claimed that a mystery man killed my husband, but didn't identify who or what had happened. The subsequent police investigation revealed Martha's involvement. Evidence showed no forced entry. Her behavior during and after the murder appeared unusually composed, and it was later revealed that she purchased cleaning supplies, suggesting a premeditated cover-up. In 2006, a Davidson County jury convicted both Martha Freeman and Rafael Rocha Perez of first-degree murder, sentencing them to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 51 years. Their convictions were upheld on appeal in 2008, with the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals affirming that the evidence, including the intimate relationship between Martha and Rocha Perez, supported a nude photo, clearly demonstrated premeditation and conspiracy. Here's my interview with convicted murderer Martha Freeman.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Martha.
an inmate at the Tennessee Department of Corrections, West Tennessee State Penitentiary.
So my name is Martha Freeman. I'm from Brentwood, Tennessee, which is right outside of Nashville, but I'm originally from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Can you recall any positive memories that stick out to you from your childhood?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I grew up riding ponies and horses. I was like the youngest one of the family. I have two older brothers, and I really had a good childhood. Grew up riding horses and ponies. I was a daddy's favorite. He spoiled me. I had an in-ground pool and a barn with horses. So, yeah, I have a lot of really good memories from my childhood.
Can you recall any negative memories that stick out to you from your childhood?
Yeah, I unfortunately I was embarrassed of my mother's appearance, and I know that sounds superficial, but when you're a child growing up, maybe you just don't understand why mom doesn't have any teeth and she runs around in moo-moos, and just it was mom didn't look like all the other moms. She didn't drive, she didn't take me anywhere, so I really grew up kind of embarrassed of my mom's appearance, and that's something that I really I isolated a lot as a result of that. I didn't necessarily learn how to make friends, so that was really tough for me growing up.
Did you suffer any type of childhood abuse or trauma growing up?
I didn't suffer any type of verbal abuse or physical abuse. I just had this thing about having friends over because I was embarrassed of my mom's appearance. That was the biggest thing for me growing up that I remember.
So you mentioned your mother. Was your father around growing up? Were they together growing up?
They were. My father owned a business, and so he worked most of the time, all of the time. And I really had my father on a pedestal because my thing was I never saw them argue. I never saw them have any type of disagreement. My mom would just shut down completely if they had a disagreement, and I think that's what I learned is how to shut down completely when things are going on. I think that happened to me when the crime happened. Is I just shut completely down, not knowing what to do. So I grew up seeing them. I mean, they were around and they were loving and everything. I just was really embarrassed of my mom's appearance. It wasn't really until I got into high school and I started smoking pot real heavy that all that about my mom just kind of went away. At that point, I didn't give a damn if somebody came over to the house because I was probably trying to sneak them in to smoke pot and have sex with them. So, yeah.
Did you have any type of hobbies growing up as a child?
Hobbies. I'm trying to think. Not necessarily, not really. I don't recall like having a specific hobby. I mean, I did all the kid stuff. I played with Barbies, and I was mainly trying to get to ride my horses and ponies. I took care of them, and that was more or less my hobby growing up, I think. I don't remember anything particular outside of that.
So what was your behavior like at home growing up? Like, how did you behave at home?
Well, I really tried to be the favorite. I really, a lot of times I would be seeking attention from my dad because I wanted his approval. Like he would come home from work and I'd want to show him or talk to him about something that had happened to me at school. But I did isolate a lot. I isolated a whole lot. And, I just remember other people having friends and sleepovers and stuff, and I didn't have that growing up because of, again, that whole thing with my mom and being embarrassed that I really isolated a lot in my room. I watched a lot of TV, just those types of behaviors that didn't serve me very well when I got to prison because I was bullied a lot when I first got here. And I wasn't used to the bullying. I didn't know how to react. I would just shut down and kind of withdraw, is all I can say to that. When I first got here, I had a lot of bullying.
What were you getting bullied for?
Well, just having the high-profile case like I did. I had inmates that I think they just picked up on the fact that I was just going to shut down and not argue with them, that I wasn't going to defend myself. And I think they took advantage of that. I think that they, I had a lot of publicity about my trial. They had seen it on TV. They made fun of me. That's basically what occurred is they really made fun of me and really thought that I was weak and, coming from the area that I came from, they really took advantage of that.
Okay, so circling back a little to your childhood, what was your behavior like in school, more so focusing on your middle school and high school years?
Oh, God, I was a people pleaser. I had to have the straight A's. I definitely was people pleasing big time. But I didn't cheerlead. I didn't do a lot of those activities. Again, just the isolation part of it, I think is what I saw myself involved, or as I look back, I see myself isolating a lot and kind of staying in my own little shell, so to say. But I didn't do a lot of those activities. I got involved in like band, and I didn't play basketball, but I was on the little basketball team. So I did do some little extracurricular activity type things, but I got kicked out of band for smoking pot. So there's that.
Did you graduate high school?
I did. I graduated when I was 17. So, yeah, I graduated early, and I was going to go to college. I did go to college, but just for a short time. I just decided that I couldn't find parking spaces where I wanted them, and I just wasn't going to go back. And my dad said if I wasn't going to go, he wasn't going to keep sending them money. So I dropped out of college and continued to smoke pot.
So did you engage in any type of criminal activity as a juvenile?
I did once. I forged a prescription, or I tried to pass a forged prescription for a family member. And I was like 14 and didn't quite understand what was going on. I don't think I quite understood what was going on, but I did get arrested, and I had to, I was supposed to do like 2 weekends in jail, but I think my family bought the jailer a country ham, and I ended up not having to do anything but just stay home those 2 weekends and not be seen out in the community. So, but yeah, I did. I didn't forge it. I tried to pass it, a prescription that one of my family members had written. So there's that. Yeah.
Hmm. Did you engage in any type of criminal activity as an adult prior to the case you're serving time for now?
I did. Actually, I did. Once again, let's go back to the prescription drug use, which I was really heavily into. When Jeff and I had just built our new house in Brentwood, this time I was forging prescriptions for pain medication, and I did get arrested. And, yeah, so in that case, I think I ended up getting maybe parole, probation, something. I had to go see a probation officer every month. But, yeah, I did. I was forging prescriptions. At this time, I really was, and it was me doing it. So, and I did get caught. I was so embarrassed. I had to call Jeff from the Davidson County jail and let him know what had happened and what was going on. And we were just moved into a brand new house, and it was a very stressful time for me. But I had brought it on myself. But prior to the crime I'm here now, that's what had happened for the prescription drug abuse.
Okay, so speaking of Jeff, tell me how you two met, when and how you two met.
Oh, it's so cute. I was working for a company. He was working for a transportation brokerage company. So basically, he booked trucks, and he didn't drive them or anything like that. All they did was source trucks for big companies like Frito-Lay that had just-in-time shipping. You know, when they had a shipment ready to go, they had to have trucks in there to cover it, and he worked for that company. I worked for a company that was shipping pallets all over the United States, and so I would have to call Jeff's company, and it was just kind of funny how he was my rep, and I would ask for him, and he'd always be gone, and I would flirt with him when he would come back. When he finally come back to the office, like, you know, I'd be like, oh, you've got banker's hours and all this other stuff. And so we just got to talking, and I was like, one day on the phone, I was like, well, I better let you go so you get home to the wife and kids. And he's like, no wife, no kids. And so we just decided to meet. We met in Bowling Green. At the time, I was living with my mom. And, yeah, that's how we met, is through work. So he worked for a company, and I worked for a different company, and that's how we met up, and it was great. I'll never forget that. That was awesome.
How long after you two were together did you get married?
It was pretty quick because Jeff was like, I don't want to he didn't want to keep paying the long-distance phone call bill. And so I would say I moved in with him pretty quick, actually. And we got married probably 3 to 4 months after I moved in. So when less than a year, we were married. From the time we met, we were married. So I'll never forget one Christmas. It was Christmas or my birthday. He went out and he found this hand-carved heart, wooden box. It was a wooden box and it was a heart. And he put his house key in it and gave it to me like that, like the key to his heart. It was so cool. So cool.
Tell me when and how you met your co-defendant in this case, Rafael DeJesus Rocha Perez.
Yeah, so as Jeff and I, we were married for almost 10 years before all this came about. And unfortunately, as much as I did love Jeff, and as much as we were together on a lot of different things, especially owning the business that we owned together, we were not seeing eye to eye in the bedroom, not at all. And I think my sex drive was was in overdrive. I don't know. I don't know if it had anything to do with hormones, with the fact that I was getting up. I was probably in my mid to late 30s, my late 30s, early 40s, and my sex drive just went up through the sky. And I think I had complained about it to one of my employees because we owned the business, and they were like, "Oh, you need to get a booty call. You need to get a booty call. You need somebody to service your account, so to say." And well, I had done a lot. I had hid a lot of money and stuff like that from Jeff, and because I was abusing those prescription pills. And I was like, man, I have not cheated on him. That's just not what I want to do. But eventually I did give in and cheat on him. So, I'm sorry, what was the original question? I've kind of veered off here.
Oh, it's okay. How did you meet your co-defendant? Like, when and how did you meet your co-defendant?
Okay. I got you. So, I went, it was the 4th of July, and I had gotten mad at Jeff, and whenever I got mad at him, I'd pack up a little overnight suitcase, and I'd go get a hotel room somewhere. Well, it was the 4th of July, and I got a really nice hotel room. I think it was at the Renaissance Hotel downtown in Nashville, and I had a beautiful view of the skyline and all the different fireworks. We had watched the fireworks together, but he went home that evening, and I stayed in the hotel overnight. And I just wandered downtown, and I came across 3 Mexicans, and I was like, hey, do you guys want to go party? And so we went back to the hotel room and had sex. So that's how I ended up meeting him.
When you say you went back to the hotel room, did you go back with all 3 of them or just Rafael?
I did. All 3 of them. Yeah. That was me. I had sex with all 3 of them. And then I ended up taking prescription pills, which was the theme of my life at that time, is abusing prescription pills. And I ended up passing out, and I just remember waking up the next day, and his friends had left and just left him there. And I'm like, now what the hell am I going to do with him? But what pissed me off about the whole thing is they had rented movies and ordered room service and charged all kinds of shit to my room. And I just remember thinking, my God, y'all just left me with a hell of a bunch of debt. But, yeah, that's how I met him.
So it sounds like after you 3 had sex, he basically just didn't leave, and you guys, was it like a strictly like sexual relationship? Because I've read that he didn't really speak much English, so was it just like a strict like sexual relationship?
It was, yeah, it really was. It really was, and I was just, it was nothing but a sexual relationship, and that's the way I've always looked back on it. I mean, even today, I wouldn't even reach out to him. I don't have anything in common with him. I don't have any feelings towards him because it was just it was strictly a sexual relationship. That's exactly what it was.
Okay, so this case is nicknamed the Mexican in the Closet. Can you tell me why that was?
Right. So, what had happened was, there was a short time that I moved out of the marital home, and I lived with him in a hotel room. Well, I kind of ran out of money, and I had tapped out all of my credit cards. So I took him back to where he came from, which was Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I decided, he kept calling. At the time, I thought I was going to go back and work on my marriage with Jeff. And so he kept calling, and I decided, well, maybe I still have some things of his. I need to take those to him. And so I went to Murfreesboro. I picked him up, and at the time, I did not have any credit left in order to get a no-tell motel. And I brought him back to the house. I brought him back to the marital home, which I should have never, ever done. Never should have done. But at the time, Jeff was out of town. He had gone to, he had gone to Knoxville, Tennessee to see a UT basketball game. It was April. And I brought him back to the house, and he stayed, before Jeff left, he stayed a couple of nights overnight in the guest bedroom, in the closet. He actually made himself a bed in the closet. It was just a spare bedroom that we had. It was kind of a walk-in closet, and he got a sleeping bag and made himself a bed. So that's kind of how it got the name Mexican in the Closet. That's how it got termed that, because he stayed a couple of nights and Jeff didn't know anything about it. I was too messed up to drive him home. I was on so many meds that I couldn't even see straight to even drive him home. So that's how that got that name.
So let's talk about the case you're in prison for now.
Okay.
You're serving life without the possibility of parole, correct?
I think it's with parole.
Is it? Okay, because I saw 3 different sentences. I saw 60 years on TDOC, which I thought was kind of weird. It didn't say life without parole. It said 60 years. So I wasn't sure if it was life with parole, life without parole, or just a 60-year sentence.
Yeah, I think it's life with.
Okay.
I think.
All right. Okay.
Seems like I should know these things, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was confused at first because it just says a flat 60 years on TDOC, which I was like, that's weird because I know some people that I know in Tennessee says life with or without parole.
Right. Yeah. I'm praying that changes.
Right.
That ends up changing to, where if you have life with parole, you can go up, because so many people that have life sentences, at my age, you're basically life with parole. You're giving me a life sentence with that amount of time. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. So can you walk me through everything that you remember that led up to the death of your husband and what followed after the fact?
Okay. Yeah. So what happened is I was passed out on medication, and I did not hear the garage door go up or anything. I did not realize that Jeff came home a little bit early from that basketball game. And again, I'm on tons of medication, and I did not realize what was going on as far as when Jeff came home. Jeff came home and kind of surprised the Mexican in the closet, so to say. And there was a confrontation. When he started to grab Jeff, I ran outside. When I ran outside, I did not even realize. And again, I know everybody's like, well, my God, didn't you know what was going on? Why didn't you call the police? I really didn't realize what was going on. I did not know that. I just felt like I'd just been caught, with this guy in the house. And it's really hard to say, why I didn't. The reason I didn't call the police is because, again, I felt like I'd just been caught with this guy in the house and not knowing and realizing what he was getting ready to do to Jeff. So that kind of takes you to that part of it. And from what I understand after the fact, he grabbed Jeff and took him into the spare bathroom. I guess you could say the guest bathroom. I did not know this until after the fact. Later on, when I got attorneys and got into discovery of the case, that he'd actually hit Jeff and then he either drowned him or choked him out, one or the other. I think Jeff was wet. I think by the time I got back inside, it was over as far as I could tell, and he told me to go into the guest bedroom and shut the door and not come out. So I kind of did what he told me to do. That's as much as that's kind of what happened, the crime itself. As far as what I did after the fact, I did some really dumb stuff after the fact. I called his mother saying that he was sick, and he wasn't sick. At this time, he was dead. I went and got prescription medication filled because that's what a good addict does. When they're scared or something happens, you go and, you want to medicate. You don't want to have to deal with that kind of trauma. And so that's what I did. And, well, I didn't even remember getting prescription medication filled until my attorney brought it up to me and told me that that's what had happened. I tried to take all the pills because that way I felt like I could kind of pass out or escape what was going on. So, yeah, all that was going on.
Tell me what happened after calling 911. Were you and Rafael arrested right away, or did he take off after you called them?
He took off. I went out the front door. He went out the back door. He took off running, and he ended up hiding. We had some construction that was going on behind our house. He hid up in an attic of a house that was under construction. And I went over to the neighbor's house. And, of course, at this point, Jeff had been dead for hours. He had been in the bathroom floor for hours. My whole
But I
thing
think it had said 16 hours, right?
Yeah. My whole thing was, I need to sober up. I need to sober up so that I can tell the cops what happened. Because, I had taken a big handful of pills after going to the pharmacy, coming back and taking a big handful of pills, and I'm like, I've got to sober up so I can tell them what's going on. And I kept saying, I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail, because I knew that I kind of felt like, so this is some shit right here. So, he ended up running out the back door, and I ended up going over to the neighbor's house and calling 911. Of course, by this time, it had been over for a long time, so there was no reason really to call 911 at that point.
When you two were first arrested, were you originally charged with first-degree murder, or was it something else?
No. Now, I got indicted. He was arrested immediately. I got indicted. I was out on bond. I was out for about, let's see, for about 5 months before I got indicted. And then I was indicted.
So were you not charged right away, or were you charged and then bonded out?
I was not charged right away. I was indicted 5 months after the fact.
So what eventually led to you being charged? Did Rafael say something?
Don't know. Don't know. That was the grand jury that did that indicted
okay.
me. I really don't know what happened during. I just know that I was out for about 5 months before I was indicted. And I was indicted for first degree. I was.
Were you or him offered any plea deals before taking your cases to trial?
Not before trial, no. I don't know about him, whether he was offered anything, but I wasn't offered a plea deal until it was during my trial. They offered me a plea deal of 30 years at 20%. I accepted it. One of my attorneys went back into the judge's chambers to start drawing up the paperwork for facilitation of first degree, which I felt like that's the crime that I did. I was totally fine with doing that amount of time, but the other attorney talked me out of it. He talked me out of taking the plea deal and he's now the district attorney for Davidson County, the county I was in. So I feel like he has a bit of responsibility for putting me here. He should have never talked me out of that plea deal, ever, especially knowing that would have, yeah. I mean, I bear responsibility for putting myself here, obviously. I made the choice to bring this guy to the house. I didn't do anything to stop what ultimately happened to Jeff. I did dumb stuff after the fact, but I feel like since I didn't participate to the degree that I had anything to do with killing my husband, the facilitation, I was perfectly fine with that, perfectly fine with taking that plea. And I feel like it was, ineffective counsel for him to tell me not to take that plea deal, especially change my mind after I'd already taken it.
So they talked you out of it, then you went to trial, then you got life with the possibility of parole. Is that after 25 years?
No, it's still after 60 years.
Oh, after 60 years.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they change the law to where it goes back down to 25, but that has not occurred yet.
Oh, okay.
He ain't kicked around. Yeah, that's still after 60 years. It's actually, you serve you serve 85% of that, which turns out to be about 50 or 55 years.
Right, which is still essentially a death sentence.
It is.
Were you and Rafael tried separately?
No, and that's the other thing. We were tried together, which is the worst case scenario. Because when you're tried with your co-defendant like that, you cannot put on much of a defense, because you're basically trying to point the finger at each other.
Right.
So
Did that happen?
That was the other thing. Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I don't know that he so much pointed the finger at me as I was trying to point the finger at him, because he ultimately did kill my husband. But no, we were tried together, which was the worst case scenario. We tried to have it separated, but they said that the 911 call was not an excited utterance. In other words, time had lapsed so much since the death of my husband that 911 call was not, it didn't. They were able to keep the 911 call out of court. I mean, I'm sitting here on a life with parole sentence. The jury never heard my 911 call. They never saw my interview with the detectives. There's so much stuff that was kept out that if I was handing down a life sentence, I sure would have wanted to know these things before I made that decision. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that never got put in because the state was able to keep it out.
So you've told me a little bit about what you say was kept out at trial, but tell me what the trial looked like overall to you from your point of view.
Wow. I thought things were going better than what they were. I think there was a lot of stuff that was brought in about the relationship, which I never denied that there was a relationship, but it didn't make me a murderer. I think that they should have brought in more about my mental health, the fact that I'm bipolar, the fact that I was abusing medications. I don't think enough of that evidence is actually brought in to the trial to show any. I just felt like there was a whole lot of stuff that was left out, like you said, or like I had said, of the trial itself. It felt surreal. There's a lot of that went on. There's a lot of publicity that was involved in it. I think Court TV was there. I know Geraldo Rivera at the time was chasing me around. So it kind of felt surreal. That's how I would sum it up.
Okay. And so how did you feel emotionally after you were convicted and heard your sentence read, life with the possibility of parole?
Oh, God, I was devastated. I was devastated. Especially knowing that I had just turned down a plea deal during my trial, because it was right before closing arguments. I was devastated. I started crying and boo-hooing. My attorney couldn't get the jewelry off of me fast enough. He took my wedding ring, and I had a string of real pearls. He took all that off of me, was saying, well, you know, this is considered contraband in jail, so I've got to take this from you. Yeah, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. Still devastated to this day, really, when I think about it. When I think back of, I could have already been out of prison because I've had a pretty good record. You know, sit there and think back about it. It's still devastating to this day.
Nowadays, how do you spend your time in prison?
Well, that's a great question. I'm actually in a program that's helping me a lot with my mental health. And since I've gotten some, naturally I've gotten some, a dirty drug screen, I'm in a program that helps me a lot with my mental health. I do a lot of group activities. I'm doing a lot of stuff on trauma and anxiety and boundaries and things of this nature, which is good. It really helps keep me in a good headspace. I do that. I do journaling. I do coloring. I listen to some podcasts on my tablet. So that's kind of how I'm keeping myself busy these days. I aggravate you, I think, occasionally. Yeah, occasionally. So that's kind of how I stay busy. Watch TV. Like to have more pen pals because I've got plenty of stamps just sitting around. That's kind of it. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you do your case. Let's say you do get paroled one day. How would you see yourself living life in the free world, and what would you do to make sure you wouldn't reoffend and end up back in prison?
That's a great question. So I think that I would want to go to a halfway house. I want to be able to transition back into society. I don't think that just going out and getting an apartment or something like that, you know, I'm actually going to be eligible for some type of government assistance as well. But I think I'd want to transition into a halfway house. I would like to work in the hotel industry, oddly enough. I just find it really fascinating. I'd like to be able to be a clerk or something at a hotel. I love customer service. I love being able to assist other people. So that's kind of something that I would really like to get involved in. But I think that's where I would see myself is doing that. Now, with that being said, I'm actually kind of holding off. I'm going to do a clemency, and I've got a lot of it written up. I've got a lot of it ready to go. I'm just since I've got a write-up within the past year, I'm going to kind of let that fall off a little bit before I try to do the clemency part of it, because I don't think it would fly very well if it was less than a year that I've gotten some type of disciplinary. So, yeah, that's kind of where I see myself.
Since being to prison or prior to getting to prison, have you been diagnosed with any type of mental illnesses?
Yes, I'm diagnosed bipolar. I don't know if it's one or two. I don't know the difference, actually. But I was being treated in the free world for being bipolar. And anxiety disorder. A lot of times I get overwhelmed with chaos or loud noises, things of that nature that's going on around me, and I kind of shut down and retreat, and try to get as far away from it as I can. So those are the two diagnoses that were very much I was being treated for prior to the commission of this crime and being incarcerated.
Is there anything that you would like the public to know about yourself or this case?
I don't know. I'm an open book, so if obviously if somebody wanted to write me or had questions that I wasn't able to answer or I didn't answer, I'd be happy to write them back and tell them whatever. I think that I'm not sure that I have anything that's not already out there. I think if they were to get to know me, that I'm a pretty chill person. You know, I don't have anger issues or things of that nature. That I get along with just about everybody, and yeah, so that's about it.
So before we conclude this interview, is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
No, I don't think. I think we pretty much hit all the high points. I don't think there's anything else that I'd want to divulge. I think we went over just about everything. I feel it was pretty complete and pretty thorough. You know, I did want to throw out that about being, accepting the plea deal, but I covered that pretty well. I wanted to throw out about the childhood, having a good childhood. I think I covered that pretty well. So, no, I don't think there's anything else that I would add to it, but I do appreciate the opportunity.
That was my interview with convicted murderer Martha Freeman. If you liked the episode and want to hear it ad-free, head on over to patreon.com/unforbiddentruth. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.